Gwynedane Tesla runs the hard bristles of her brush through her hair again. It is a simple thing, black like most of her possessions, sleek, elegant, considered accessoire, all part of the image she has so carefully cultivated over the years. Her hair is already perfectly combed, of course. She'd been at it for 14 minutes and 37 seconds by now. Not that she would ever allow a knot or a tangle to mar her looks. She could not afford herself such imperfections. But the motion of the brush helps her focus. The feeling of the bristles running through her hair center her. Gwynedane needs to be centered right now more than ever. Everything she has worked for so long is tethering on a knife's edge. Her greatest project, her triumph, had, after months of faltering, finally failed her. All around her she can feel the vultures circling. Oh, no one had dared speak a word against her openly so far, of course. She had found far too much success to be questioned directly. But behind the scenes, in the ballrooms and smoky antechambers of the capital's many palaces, she knows they are plotting against her. The great and the good of the empire, the cream of the crop. Little more than hounds themselves, slaves to their hedonistic desires for intoxicants, decadent meals, and endless debauchery. Unlike Gwynedane, she had risen above such petty animalistic gurges. She and she alone is truly human, truly a person surrounded by mutts. The brushing is a flaw, of course, a slight chink in her carefully polished, invulnerable persona of a handler. She would work on erasing it from herself, as she had erased her other dog-like vices. Not a drop of whiskey had passed her lips in years. She had not felt the disgusting emotion of kinship with any of the dogs that surround her in a decade. Yes, the brushing is a flaw. It will have to go. But for now, when nobody's around, she will permit herself that flaw. It helps her center. In truth, Gwynedane almost feels more respect for her hounds than those that call themselves the nobility of the empire. No, not almost. She does. Her hounds at least are honest. About themselves, about their urges. They do not pretend to be anything more than slavering beasts. There is a kind of honor in knowing your place, Gwynedane thinks. Her hounds simply realize they are lesser than her, beneath her. They accept this. The arrogant, sniveling gluttons of the capital do not. Think they are better than her, despite the fact they constantly give in to even their basest desires. Despite them lacking the ironclad self-control that she has. And now, they dare claim that she has failed, when it is them that fail day in and day out to seize the purse note when it is right in front of the... Snap. A single strand of hair breaks under the relentless march of Gwynedane's brush. She stares at it in disbelief for a moment. A hair. Broken. Out of place. Her perfect locks marred by her flaw. No. No. No, 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 no. This can't be right. Her image is perfect. She does not deviate from its painstaking presentation. This hair cannot be out of place. Gwynedane's breath does not quicken. Her heart does not pound in her chest. Her jaw does not tighten. She has long since learned to control such hound-like impulses. But still, her stomach curdles. A knock on the door. Her mercilessly drilled routines kick back in. She removes the traitorous hair from the brush in one fluid motion, disposing of it in a small wastebin next to her desk. She swiftly stows the brush back in the drawer she keeps it in and places her peaked cap back on her head, trusting that the rest of her image will hide the new flaw for a brief moment. Gwynedane turns to the door, standing in the rigid parade rest that so effortlessly projects her authority and throws the dogs around her off kilter. "Enter," she says. Her voice is perfectly level, of course. It does not betray anything. She will not let it. The door slides open soundlessly. Gwynedane's hounds keep it well oiled and spotless, as they do with all of her possessions, and in front of her stands a single private. A young thing, Gwynedane thinks. Barely 20, if that. Burgundy hair half falls over one of her eyes, which are darting around the room, looking anywhere but at the handler in front of her. She can see the soldier shrink into her uniform as the door opens. A weaker person than Gwynedane? No. A dog might cock an eyebrow. They might allow one of the sides of the lips to curl upward in a twisted hint of a smile. They might indulge in any number of pathetic signifiers of authority. Gwynedane needs no such crutches. She simply stands and waits as the girl in a doorway instinctively makes herself lesser. The silence hangs on them both like chains. It is the girl that breaks them, eventually. She stammers, eyes cast to the floor. The general, she wants to speak to you, ma'am. She quickly adds at the last moment. Gwynedane is marginally pleased to see that the boot camp the Empire puts its fodder through has stuck well enough for her rank to be respected, even when the girl across from her is clearly on the verge of a panic attack. No, Gwynedane corrects herself. The dog across from her. People are in control of their emotions. Mutts are led by them. Regardless, even she cannot afford to let General Athickson wait for too long. Certainly not when she is likely to be in a foul mood. The General is one of the few people capable of giving her any real trouble, in the rare moments where she does not give Gwynedane a wide berth. She nods. "Very well. Inform the General that I shall report to her office momentarily." Dismissed. The girl across from her stifles a yelp as Gwynedane's voice rolls over her. She quickly, to the credit of the one that drilled these instincts into her, snaps to an almost passable salute. The shaking of her hand ruins the effect a little, but then Gwynedane expects very little from dogs she has not trained herself. The soldier mutters an acknowledgement and departs, leaving Gwynedane with a few moments to consider her planned course of action. This summons is obviously going to concern her prize hound's conduct in the field, and subsequent dismissal, of course. There is nothing else to discuss, especially on such short notice. Gwynedane is not going to admit fault. There is nothing for her to admit. She has made no mistake. She speaks these words to herself, and so they inevitably become reality. Gwynedane has made no mistakes. Everything went as it was supposed to. She already knows how she will smother the General's anger naturally. She'd been crafting her solution to this problem from the second she had cast her broken dog aside. Gwynedane casts one last look in a mirror. Her uniform is creaseless and immaculate. Not a speck of dust on her boots. Her cap rests perfectly level on her locks. Her locks. That one hair, she can see it, of course. Her flawless hairdo, not but a single hair out of place. But to Gwynedane, that single hair might as well have been a gaping fissure. It is a fracture in her image, one she cannot afford. Thankfully, she is nothing if not adept at thinking on her feet. It's how she managed to get this far. Slowly, carefully, she identifies with adjacent strands are integral to the structure of her presentation, and which are merely accentuating flourishes. She selects 3, With steady hand, she plucks them from their assigned position and gingerly maneuvers them into and over the hollow left by the original hare's absence. She lifts her cap and inspects the new flow of her adjusted strands. They only look out of place near her crown, where her headdress covers the imperfection. She will have to devise a more permanent solution later, but for now, she has an appointment. Lesser women might crack a joke about seeing a dog about a dog. Gwynedane is above such petty things as humor. As the errant, beastly impulse careens through her thoughts, she surgically seizes and clips it. Gwynedane leaves it to bleed to death in the recesses of her mind as she strides through the door of her office, confident her appearance will be considered as immaculate as ever by the hounds that surround her. Hound shivers. It's cold. The gentle patter of the rain on Hound's true body as it lurched and limped forwards would be comforting if it hadn't been so frigid. It's not warm for this time of year, and the deluge isn't helping. Weird. It had been warm just before the battle started, just before Hound its thoughts stop. They haven't been conditioned to on this, but it is too painful to think about, and Hound's mind is adept at shutting itself down after the endless training by her. Its thoughts stop. It can't bear to dwell on that. It doesn't remember what that is, of course. That's the entire point. It's grateful for the rain. At least the cold shivers, distracted from the thoughts dwelling in its flesh head. Similarly, it is grateful for the pounding in its flesh brain. Another distraction. It's felt this before at times, when it was out in the field for long enough that it ran out of its boosters. It knows what to do. Hound reaches for its pill bottle, the one it has been trained to use on instinct. Its quivering, clammy flesh claws twist open the cap in one smooth motion, turning the bottle upside down to claim its prize. Nothing. No precious motivator falls out. No rattling in the bottle either. It's empty. Hound claws for the reserve it has been allowed to build up in the little case built into the armrest of the chair for its flesh body. Again, disappointment. It hasn't found the energy to stock up in quite some time. Slowly, through the haze that always clouds Hound's mind, a terrible realization begins to set in. It is out of its boosters, and it can't get new ones. The pounding in its head returns. No welcome diversion from its thoughts this time, but rather a terrifying sign of what was to come. Hound knows it will only get worse. Does it already feel a hint of the inevitable nausea? Is the shaking in its flesh claws getting worse? The wetness on its cheeks, are those tears from what had happened, or cold sweat dripping down its head? Hound has been intentionally deprived of its boosters before, of course, as punishment or part of its training regime. It had survived this before, but those previous times it had been controlled. It had been safe, or as safe as depriving Hound's flesh body of its combat stimulants could reasonably be. It had been under the watchful, stern gaze of A small whimper escapes from Hound's lips as it forces the unwelcome thought out of its mind. It still can't bear to think of what has just happened. Or has it been just? How long has Hound been running for? It cannot remember. It has not tracked the passage of time. It is dark outside of a true body right now. Had it been night when it had started its flight? It does not know. It keeps moving, regardless. It's all it can do. It's the last order Hound howls. As confused and clouded as its thoughts are, it cannot stop thinking about her. Its mind snaps to blankness and Hound reels from the impact on its psyche. It's too much. It's all too much. The withdrawals, the thoughts it cannot endure, yet it keeps having. The constant wiping clean of its already dazed mind. It tries to keep going and simply fails. Something shifts in its brain. One ego dissolves as another takes its place. And for the first time she can remember, Alida comes to without being given a trigger phrase. She has only a second to realize this before she, too, is crushed by the overbearing weight of reality, and she slumps out of her chair, crashing to the ground of her cockpit. The last thing she can see as Sparrowsong topples over in tandem with her body is the beautiful night sky and its many stars. Despite everything, a small, weak, fleeting smile visits her lips, and then everything goes black. It's a wonderful sunny morning, and Hazy Coltress strolls out the door of her parents' cottage with a spring in her step and a hum in her throat. Oh, she's got a busy enough day as well. Springtime leaves her with plenty of work to do, even with the new horse Pa got to pull the plow. But she always finds contentment in her work. There's meaning in all of it, she figures, no matter how small. Milk the cows so the poor things don't walk around with engorged udders all the time. Deep clean the chicken coop so those loud little ladies have a clean place to nest. Repaint the barn so she's got something nice to look at while tilling the fields instead of this slightly shabby paint job that faded over the course of the winter. Plenty more to do than that, of course, but one day at a time, Hazy figures. For a morning's work, she'll start with a quick tour of the farm's perimeter, inspect the fences, see if anything needs repairing, check if there's anything she should make a note of, that sort of thing. Besides, the weather hasn't been this good in ages. She'd be a right fool to miss out on a chance for a leisurely walk on this kind of breezy, sunny spring day. The tune she's humming blossoms into a full song as she closes the door behind her. She's far enough away to not wake the baby now, and sets off down the path that will take her to the boundary of the Coltress family farm. The smell of freshly baked pie hits her nostrils and she smiles. Ma always likes to bake cherry pies for the first day of spring. Was one of the many little family traditions Hazy has grown to love over the years. Funny that. Traditions never really register as a thing you have, they're just normal to you. She giggles as she remembers being shocked that the Trolloc boys 2 farms over didn't get spring cherry pie every year. They, for their part, had been baffled that the Coltress didn't put much stock in equinox sing-arounds. At least not until Hazy had begged Pa and Ma to come along to the Trollocs to join one. It had been a nice way to bring the newcomers into their sleepy little community. They'd mostly kept to themselves before. Quiet lot. Of course, they're still a bit more dour than most folks in Sedane's Rest. They certainly don't talk about where they came from, but that's alright. Doesn't make 'em bad people, and they'd opened up a bunch since then. Crenshaw Trolloc had even proposed to her come summer last year. Poor lad hadn't realized yet Hazy doesn't swing that way. Still, he took it gracefully enough. they're still good friends. Hazy's musings are interrupted by the sounds of physical exertion and splintering wood. She looks to the woodshed, seeing what she knows she'd find. Pa chopping firewood. He never puts off filling the shed back up. "You don't know when winter'll hit early again, or the war comes here and we can't go to the woods for more," he always says. Hazy gives a quick shout and a wave by ways of hello, and Pa looks up from his huffing and puffing as he wipes the sweat from his brow, his kind eyes, wrinkles dancing around them as they light up with joy at seeing his only child meet hers, and he smiles. "Morn, Hazy," he says, leaning on his axe, the head biting into the soft, fertile loam beneath their feet. "You off to market then? Bit early for that, ain't it so?" Hazy smiles and shakes her head, twin braids jolting about on her shoulders. "Nah, Pa," she says. "Just going for a quick round the farm. Make sure everything's just so. Guess you need help with firewood?" Pa grins, puffing out his chest and streaking his fingers through his silver beard. "Going for a saunter when there's so much to do, are ya?" He responds teasingly. No, the warmth in his voice is clear. "I'm so glad I've got such a hard-working daughter, sweetheart, but nah," he continues. "I'd handle this. You go have yourself a nice walk in the sun, Hazy. I'll see you for lunch. We can clean the pigsty after, yeah?" Hazy nods enthusiastically. Mucking sturdy, smelly work, of course, but something about it always makes her feel so alive, especially once she can take a bath after. Good, honest toil, that. Pa waves off with a smile and turns to place another piece of wood on the chopping stump, and Hazy continues her lazy pace outward. The trek around the farm is exactly as wonderful as Hazy suspected it would be. A slight breeze plays through her hair, making the young, darling spring flowers that are bold enough to bloom this early dance, and waves play through the grass. Hazy's never been to the sea, but from the stories the merchant girl that comes through town from time to time tells about it, she likes to think its waves look a lot like these. Her mind wanders back to the merchant girl as she walks, keeping half an eye out for any concerns she should make note of. Hazy never did catch her name, but they'd had such a wonderful evening together a few years ago. She'd spent all winter doing extra chores around the house for pocket change, even going out to the other farmsteads to earn some extra coins. She'd worked herself ragged, but with how much she'd saved up, she'd earned enough to buy the prettiest necklace the merchant girl had on offer next time she swung by the little village Hazy calls home. The look on her face when Hazy had promptly offered it right back to her is still etched in her memory. A grin and a blush race across her face as she feels the warmth of the recollection spread through her chest. They'd hit the tavern together that night, laughing and drinking and singing songs until the early morn hours. As the sun rose, merchant girl thought Hazy a lot of things about her body she's still burning to try again. Reflexively, Hazy's thighs rub together as she feels the touch of merchant girl's slender fingers and plump lips on them, and between them. Ma and Pa didn't mind much, course. They were just happy their girl found love, even if for just a bit. They still hope for a grandchild or two to take care of the farm when Hazy's their age and they're long gone, but hey, what with that war they occasionally hear horror stories about from merchant girl or rarely young Poddy Trulek when he's been too deep in the whiskey. They've already figured Hazy can just give a loving home to a couple poor war orphans. Hazy likes that idea. She don't know if she can be a good mother, but she sure wants to make poor kids like that feel safe. Still, as things look, she'll probably have to do that by herself. Merchant girl's the only lady like her she's ever found. Not many other ladies her age in Selene's Rest, and far as Hazy been able to figure out, none that shared her interest. She'd planned to ask merchant girl to settle down, maybe, but she hadn't been seen in a couple of years now. Not since she and Hazy had that wonderful night in the meadow beneath the morning sun, actually. It's not uncommon for her to miss a year, but after 2 years in a row, Hazie's getting a mite worried. Maybe she'd scared the merchant girl off with her advances. Maybe the war had gotten her, or maybe... Hazie's train of thought is rudely disrupted by the bizarre vista in front of her. She'd nearly walked right into it, as deep in thought as she'd been. Before her lies a giant metal... thing? It looks vaguely dog-like, if someone built a dog the size of a barn. Is this one of them tractor things she'd heard about from the merchant girl, she wonders? Nah, can't be. Anyone even thinking of buying one of them things would have been the talk of the town for years, she's sure of it. Besides, she notices with some distress the massive, serrated, saw-like blade extending from one of the machine's limbs. Are those limbs? That's not something a tractor would have, she reckons. And whatever it is, it's busted up something fierce. Some sort of fluid is spilling from dozens of places. It's torn open in many more. Holes punched right through, revealing all sorts of wiring Hazie's only seen in a few completely unaffordable artifacts merchant girl had brought with her on occasion. One of its 4 limbs, Hazie decides to just go with that term for the moment, is torn off at what she'd call the elbow on a person. Is this the war? Hazie's confusion turns to icy fear as she realizes there's somebody in the thing. A soft moan rises from the maimed machine's heart. Unsure what to do, but damned if she'd let some poor thing be stuck in that metal horror's claws, suffering who knows what kind of hurt. Hazie squats down to get a good look in. She can see there's some sort of seating space in the thing. The chair inside on its side, she notes. Does this machine walk upright normally? The thought terrifies her for a moment, before she focuses on the seat's former occupant, now half sprawled out on the soft spring grass. Hazie's mind just barely manages to make note of the fact the poor heap of humanity in front of her seems to be a she, is slumped through a nasty-looking hole in the glass of the cockpit, having seemingly crashed through it when the machine toppled. The girl looks like Pa had after one too many ciders at the Harvest Festival last year, when he'd only half managed to get into bed, kept somehow even worse for wear. She's got cuts and bruises all over her body, on top of looking all sunken-eyed, like the Trollocs had when they'd first showed up, and good grief, is the girl wearing a muzzle? What kind of sick bastard would do that to someone? Did the girl put it on herself? Somehow Hazie doubts it. Hazie maneuvers her way closer to the woman, crouching underneath the metal machine above her. When she gets close, the woman's eyes open. Beautiful. Bright green irises, marred by a cloudy, milky 1,000-year stare, infinitely worse than the one the old Trolloc gets when someone mentions the war around him. The woman seems to want to clear her throat or growl out a warning or something. She bares her teeth, clearly unhappy with Hazie's intrusion into a predicament, but her body, or perhaps her mind, fails her. The only sound out of the girl's throat is a whine that quickly falters to a whimper. Hazie's hand covers her mouth. Tears fill her eyes. A little "oh" escapes her lips. The poor thing, she chokes out through the grief that strangles her windpipe as an inkling of the extent of the trauma the person before her has been forced to endure becomes clear to her. What did they do to you? No response. None in words anyway. Another whine followed by heavy breathing. It's only then that Hazie notices the blood pooling in the grass, dripping down the broken window. Apparently, the shattered glass has bitten more deeply into the woman's stomach area than she'd thought. Hazie gasps and reaches out to touch the woman in a show of support, or perhaps to check the injury. She's not sure, her mind is barely working at the moment, but the way the girl before her tenses up as she draws closer has her back off. The last thing she needs is for this woman to start moving and opening the wounds that are currently being kept closed by the cold, jagged fragments of the cockpit's window currently jammed into her guts. The critic taste of panic wells up in the back of Hazie's throat, and she nearly screams, but she bites it down. This woman needs help. Hazie's gotta provide. Stay cool. She can feel bad later when this girl's life is no longer in danger. Stay here, okay? Hazie stammers out, doing her best to keep the dread from her voice. I'm going to get some help. Adair's a smart one. He'll know what to do. The doctor, too. He stitched Marnie Bresco up real good after his scything accident. He'll do you right. I'll be right back. No response. The girl's empty eyes focusing on Hazy's face are the only indication she gives that the words are even registering at all. Hazy nearly tumbles over backwards as she clambers out from beneath the terrible machine, but she keeps her footing steady. No time to waste. When she's free of the metal thing she's determined to not let be this woman's grave, Hazy turns and breaks out into a sprint, shouting for help from anyone in earshot. The sounds of Gwynedaine's boots resonate against the cold metal of the Imperial station's flooring. It is a good sound. She selected her boots specifically for the sound they make as she strides over hard surfaces. It took her many pairs of boots and many terrified cobblers to find a pair with soles of the exact hardness she needs. Gwynedane is pleased with her selection. She finds the clacking of her boots an effective method to instill dread in those around her before she even arrives in person. It certainly is having that effect on the soldiers she passes by. The hallways are mostly deserted. More than once, Gwynedane hears hushed whispers of fear and quickly receding footsteps as Imperial troops or base staff quickly vacate the route Gwynedane is taking, leaving her a free path to her destination. Those few that cannot scurry off stand there, pale in the face, shivering when she appears in view. Some salute, others pretend she isn't there. All of them fear her. As well they should. Gwynedane stops. She has reached her destination. A simple metal door, indistinguishable from the many others she has passed in the hallway, barring a simple nameplate bolted onto its exterior. Jen Mercifon Athexon. Too many a name that would spike dread into their hearts. The officer who has crushed the rebels time and time again, even in the most impossible situations. The most iron-willed disciplinarian in the entire Imperial army this side of the sector. To Gwynedane, just another dog in a sea of mutts. Gwynedane does not clear her throat. She does not knock. She knows the sound of her boots on the metal carried clearly enough for the woman on the other side of the door to realize she has arrived. The general does not make her wait long. A clear stern for dogs. "Come in," rings out, and Gwynedane presses the button to open the door. Its two halves smoothly slide apart and retract out of sight. She slides into the room, fluidly coming to a stop in her easily confident parade dress. Formally, the general is her superior. Truthfully, Gwynedane does not salute dogs. Athexon raises an eyebrow at Gwynedane's perceived insubordination, as she always does. Gwynedane counts. Her part in this ritual of theirs, though she supposes Athexon is in the way of this half. 7 hairs and a cocked eyebrow are out of place. Too long. Not combed. Sloppy, but less so than usual. The general wants to make an impression then. Gwynedane supposes it would be pitiful if she's still bothered with that hound-like emotion. "You want to talk about the dismissal of the hound, Alida?" It is not a question. Gwynedane delivers the line flatly, devoid of concern or even real interest. With it, she effortlessly seizes the initiative of the conversation before the general can even consider her first move. Gwynedane, of course, has been considering her moves for a day now. Athexon blinks, twice. Once more than Gwynedane had predicted. This irates her. Then again, it does mean the general is thrown off balance even more by Gwynedane's opening maneuver than she had expected. Is she more capable than she thought? Unlikely. Gwynedane takes great pains to analyze her strengths as clinically as possible. It is more likely that external forces are weighing heavy on the general then. Command has potentially taken an interest, or perhaps Do you know how many bleeding calls I've had to field from the capital about your little temper tantrum, Tesla? In her eyes, in her words, there the general's frustrations are on full display. Gwendolen is dissatisfied to see her analysis bear fruits. Calls from the capital, not command. This is a matter of investment, then, not military considerations. The easier of the two options in Gwendolen's mental modeling of this discussion. Excellent. General Atherton has not invited Gwendolen to sit, and so she falls down into the chair across from the mud, masquerading as an officer. Gwendolen leans backwards, elbows on top of the chair's backrest, legs spread, one foot kicked lazily on top of the general's desk, placed precisely to slightly scuff one of Atherton's documents. She puts on a lazy smile, showing the calculated amount of teeth, and casually flicks her cap with her finger to cock it. Not so much that it ruins her carefully crafted hairdo, but enough to look distinctively not regulation. Gwendolen hates it. Detests the dog-like disregard for decorum. Her skin would crawl at the flippancy of her actions, had she not long since tamed it into stillness. But Atherton hates it even more, and she has not tamed her skin. The gentle bristles, her nostrils flare, her shoulders tense up. She opens her mouth to speak. Listen here, Tesla, you... She's still useful to us this way, you know, Gwendolen interjects. The general opens and closes her mouth, and for a moment, Gwendolen thinks she looks more like a goldfish than a dog. The errant thought is swiftly clipped, of course, and she moves on. Consider this, General. None of our hounds fear death. I train them to be that way, though in truth I suspect that is unnecessary. On some fundamental level, most of them crave it. The general opens her mouth to interrupt, but Gwendolen dismisses her with a wave of her hand. The gesture pains her, but this brazen disregard for her rank throws the general off kilter more than any proper deference ever could. Given this, she continues, placing upon failure the penalty of death would do little to inspire greater obedience. Pain or sexual violence cannot be readily used as punishment detail for similar reason, considering it is already part of both the routine breaking regimen and the assortment of disciplinary measures for lesser infractions. An imperfect eyebrow is raised again, attentively this time. The general is quiet now, actually listening to what Gwendolen is saying, just as predicted. What then is left to us as punishment that could extract greater value from our hounds? Gwendolen asks. She demands of her lips they twist into a smirk and they obey, despite the discomfort the gesture brings her, means to an end. Simple. She spreads her hands. Exile. The general looks at her with mild confusion in her eyes. She's not even pretending to act like Gwendolen's superior now. I don't follow Tesla, she says. Explain. Gwendolen is satisfied. She has her now. No more need to pretend. She straightens her cap and gracefully sits herself properly into the chair, straight-backed and immaculate, much more befitting of her station and image. She does not permit herself unease, but she has to admit to herself she feels significantly more comfortable now. What they fear most, she continues, is separation from me. Understanding begins to twinkle in the general's eyes as Gwendolen speaks. I broke them, I remade them, I am their everything now, their singular reason to keep going. The exact reason why vary. Praise, mercy, forgiveness, gender euphoria in quite a few cases, the specifics do not matter. What matters is that I am all they can think about, the only person that can make them feel good. Slowly, the general ponders Gwendolen's words, then she begins to speak, a note of hesitation in her voice. Gwendolen does not interrupt her this time. So what you're saying is, if they die, they just die, but if they're exiled, they have to live without me, Gwendolen confirms. And to them, that is an agony infinitely greater than any death. Atherton leans back, Gwendolen's words working their magic on her. She mulls it over. Still, there's no need to send them away in their mech, Tesla. It's quite a valuable asset, you know. It is imperative they keep the machine, she replies. We train them to consider it their true body. If we send the hound but keep the machine, it will not seem so final a punishment to the others. Besides, she adds, appealing to the general's calculating side, you saw the damage reports. Hound the leader's machine would be more of a liability than an asset to us now. Gwynedane and Athixon sit there in silence for a moment. Eventually, the general sighs. Very well, Tesla. I can't believe it, but you've convinced me yet again. For now. However, she continues, your project's patrons will be able to enjoy the footage of our newest hound being broken in, thereby forgetting all about the previous one, Gwynedane says, rising from a chair and striding over to a nearby monitor. She turns it on and begins to home in on the camera footage she needs. They really liked Alida, Tesla, Athixon says, the disgust in a voice palpable. She broke really nice, according to them. Do you think your newest recruit is going to satisfy your benefactors? See for yourself, Gwynedane responds, flicking the monitor over to the correct screen. Two disheveled figures are visible in a single cell. One is a shivering, sobbing mess collapsed in the arms of the other, who is doing their best to support them. Cell 37, the label on the bottom right of the feed reads, Occupants Tremiliano Sesk, Jaxie Thornth.